When I was in the military, there was a general that we were under in my unit. He was so respected that virtually everybody in the entire unit, if he said, "Hey, we all need to go jump into this volcano," they would do it. No questions asked. And he was also feared. He was the most humble, calm, still, and most masculine general that you could possibly think of. And the thing about him that stood out was his stillness. And his name was General Mock. At the time, he was a major. Was he a major general? Yeah, he was a major general at the time. And he just epitomized what it meant to be a masculine leader. Now, obviously, in the military, you are going to have kind of a one-sided type of leadership. How he was in his home, how he was in his business, whatever it was, might have been completely different. But at least in the military, the way that he stood as a masculine container for everyone was phenomenal. And he was feared not because he yelled and he reacted, he did all these different things, but he was feared because if you did something wrong on purpose, he just quietly went through the whole entire punishment thing, courts martial, things like that. No questions asked, did not yell at you, let the facts and basically the dice roll where they may, and if you were guilty, you were guilty. Or if you needed an Article 15, which is kind of like what's called a non-judicial punishment, where you don't go in front of essentially military judges. You got the Article 15, you could appeal it, but generally you were going to get that Article 15, that punishment. But he also rewarded on the flip side. He was so good at affirming, so good at giving kudos where kudos were due. And they were fair. They weren't just, I'm going to give you this medal because, whatever reason, everyone's just going to get a medal. You got a medal from him because you actually deserved it. One of the things that I wish I would have learned long ago was calm masculine leadership. And one of the best and most fruitful and most protective things for the feminine is a masculine container. Somebody who, you have to think, I think one of the things that is a problem in our society right now is you have these ultra misogynist men, which I'm not knocking because I actually had to go and swing to that side in order to become more of a healthy masculine. There is toxic masculinity. You have the Andrew Tates. Trust me, I followed Andrew Tate for a long time. I'm not even judging him right now. In my opinion, he's so far on the toxic side, and I'm not saying that because I learned a lot from him. I'm just being honest. I learned a crap ton from him. But you have all the way to the more feminized, which I was very much a feminized masculine or a feminized boy, and then turned into a feminized man, where there's just not a knowledge of what is actually masculine and what is actually feminine. And when you understand the energies, when you understand, and this is not new age type stuff, you can find this in old writings like the Kabbalion by the Three Initiates. I highly, highly suggest that book. You can get it on YouTube for free. You can listen to the audiobook, but it's called the Kabbalion, Kybalion. and it's the hermetic principles, and one of those is that there is a masculine and feminine gender in everything. Everything in our world has a masculine and a feminine gender. And when you understand that you cannot escape that, you can then start to understand and start to see, okay, well, if everything has a masculine and feminine energy or identity or framework or even physical attributes, what is masculine? What is feminine? You cannot have, and I don't want to jump into this, but essentially, why is this important? Because when you cannot have masculine and masculine, because what happens is they kind of put each other apart. And you might say, well, what about gays? You'll typically find that in most circumstances, you're going to find that you with people who are homosexual, they even understand more so the masculine and feminine energies. You'll have one who's much more masculine, very much like a man's man type, and then you'll have one who is more feminine. And because of that, they're able to have that polarity, the attractiveness to each other. Same thing goes with lesbian relationships. Same thing goes with heterosexual relationships. Often, if you have a man who's much more of the feminine side, you'll have the woman who is much more masculine, direct, ambitious, going forward, doing things like being a CEO of a business. On the flip side, the husband is at home and doing things with the kids and not really ambitious and keeps things organized at the house. Or they are the much more emotional. Even if they are in business together, they're much more of the interpersonal, like keeping things together, in relating emotions to customers and to the team and things like that. And so obviously there's exceptions to everything, but the reason I am bringing this to the forefront now is because I never understood, I never knew, even though if you look around, everything is masculine and feminine. Even your light sockets or your electrical sockets, there's a masculine and there's a feminine. There's a masculine and feminine in every single animal, except for maybe like a handful that are not fully that, but even then they have a masculine and feminine part to them. Even though they're androgynous, they have those two aspects to them. Even some plants they might have both, but they still have those two things, right? Once I understood that, you can start to, this is more on the logic side, but you can start to explore what is masculine. Is masculine getting up and, being loud and demanding respect, and if someone disrespects you, then you come back at them and you start yelling at them and you put them down or you do whatever? What is, I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it isn't, but now you start to see what is masculine. So if the feminine is, let's just go based off of kind of an in general overview and kind of logic, that the two polarities, the masculine and feminine, are opposites. Okay? And so if the feminine is more on the emotional side, the nurturing side, the caring side, is more like the weather. The weather changes. It brings beautiful sun, it brings clouds, it brings rain, it brings heat, it brings cold, It brings all these things that keep the world alive. Because if you just had heat all the time, the world would die. If you just had cold all the time, the world would die. If you didn't have rain, the world would die. So this feminine aspect of nurturing, of giving, of change, of emotion, of variation. If that's what the feminine is, then the opposite would be stillness, solidness, being solid, containing a frame, directness. So while the weather is, everything is raining in one area, the masculine would be the mountain or the oak or the hill that doesn't move. If the rain pours on the hill stays. Sun beats on it, it stays. There is always this stillness to that masculine essence. The fixed earth, the earth that doesn't move, the item that contains. The feminine is the water that can go all over and move around and do different things, whereas the masculine is the container and contains. And so for me, I would, when bad things would happen, what would I do? Because I was raised by women, and I was raised and became hyper, I guess, feminized. What did I do? If something bad happened, or somebody said something or did something, I would overreact. I would get emotional. I would then try to manipulate them or make them feel bad, or pass the blame, or I'd get upset, or I'd go drink, or I'd go do whatever. Just go off the rails. And that would then lead to the feminine, especially the feminine. If the feminine would look at that and be like, all right, here's another feminine energy that I don't like. This is not attractive. This is not good. This is not something I'm attracted to. And so everything, when it came to romance, would diminish, right? And so sex would diminish, and affection would diminish, because it's not because that it's not because anything physically changed, but it's the emotion. It was the reaction and the feminine response that would come out, that would then lead to this just non-polarity. And when you don't have polarity, you have blandness, you have nothing. You have, in fact, it starts pulling apart. And so for both the feminine and the masculine, and I'm speaking predominantly to the masculine because that's where I speak to mainly. For me I had to start becoming the container. I had to start becoming still. I had to start seeing that internally I had to start changing my self-concept to be the guy that no matter what happens. I just came out of the gym and I do Muay Thai, and they have heavy bags at this normal gym. This is not a Muay Thai gym. This is like a normal, public gym. And there you have, it's funny, you'll see a couple of different things, but one, you have really huge guys that look mean, and they're looking for a reaction. You also have guys who are trying to be more manly and masculine. And as I'm hitting the heavy bags and I'm kicking the heavy bags, because I've been doing Muay Thai for a long time, I'll see other guys come up and start trying to mimic what I'm doing. And that's a very feminine reaction, because what's happening is this is something that I would do. Keep in mind, this is stuff that I would do back in the day, is I would look at that guy and be like, oh, I can do that. And I'd start reacting, because reaction is a very feminine attribute. You're reacting to something. I would then react and start trying to do what this guy that I admire would do, rather than being masculine and going to the guy and saying, hey, what you're doing is awesome. How are you doing that? Like, can I, whether I want to learn from the guy, or just saying, hey, what you're doing is great, that's awesome, and then asking like for tips or things like that. It's the trying to upstage, trying to act like, responding because you feel less than, and trying to be something without being direct. It's like an indirect way of trying to communicate to that person and the people around you and to yourself that you're better than this guy, which usually it ends up, the guy ends up looking ridiculous, or like a tryhard, or like a wannabe, right? Which that's the way I was. I did the exact same thing. So I'm not knocking anybody like that. And so typically what I'll do is I'll even go over to him and be like the other day, yesterday, went over to a guy he's very good. He does Taekwondo. But as soon as I started doing like my Muay Thai kicks, he started doing kicks, like Muay Thai kicks, even though he does like more Taekwondo. And I went to him and I'm like, dude, you're crushing it. That's awesome. And then he's like, oh yeah, well, you kick way harder than I do. You do Muay Thai, right? And I'm like, yeah. And I said, well, I said, yeah, I do. But one little nick to the chin with what you're doing, you're still gonna knock the person out. And he's like, yeah, that's true. But yeah, he's like, man, yeah, I wish I could kick as hard as you. And I just kept on affirming him. I'm like, dude, you're fast, and you surprise somebody with one little liver shot or one little kick to the shin, and that guy's out. And you can tell he's all pumped up and everything like that. But he didn't come to me, I came to him. That's a very masculine thing. Even through like humbly affirming somebody, and it's not to be like, oh, look at me, whoa. No, that's a very masculine thing to do, is to see somebody in need, or see somebody trying to do something, or see that somebody is I don't know the word, but to see that he was trying to do something, and then just saying, dude, you're doing amazing with what you are good at. And if he wants to learn how to do Muay Thai, great. But directly saying and talking about the thing, rather than indirectly trying to show off or indirectly trying to do something, that there's two very, very different things, right? Two very, very different things. So, how do you learn stillness? How do you learn to be calm? Being calm can save your marriage. And I've gone through a lot of shit in my marriage, and a lot of it was because of me. But once I became calm, and which this was only within the last few years, things drastically changed. It's been the best it's ever been. How do you how do you learn stillness as a masculine man? This is how I did it. And it might not work for you, but this is, in general, it's going to be very similar. One, physical training, lifting heavy weights. And so lifting heavy weights, because it's something that's just going to give you confidence. Because stillness comes from confidence. You know, as I'm walking with my head held high and my chest out and passing people who could potentially be threats, which I used to be scared of other men. I'm just being honest, I used to be scared of other men that, and so I'd drop my head, I'd have nervousness and so on. You start getting the confidence, at least from strength, the strength side of things, that you can handle yourself. Now, the majority of people who have muscles do not know how to fight. And so that goes into number 2, which is learn a martial art. And I don't mean, and I'm not knocking any other like martial art. There's just so many McDojos out there. There's so many arts out there that are not real. They look great. I'm not knocking Wing Chun. I used to be fascinated with Wing Chun and Ip Man, which he was a teacher of Bruce Lee, and it just looks so cool. And you know, Ip Man was a legend, and Wing Chun is a legendary martial art. I used to do Aikido, and in reality, as it stands right now, they're pretty worthless. I'm not saying they are there's some good stuff. I'm not knocking any of it, but dude, really the only 2 that you need to learn right now, or could be 3, is jiu-jitsu. Go to a good jiu-jitsu gym, and Muay Thai. Reason for Muay Thai is because you're going to learn boxing with Muay Thai for the most part. A lot of gyms out there mix boxing with Muay Thai. That's Thai style kickboxing. Okay, you're going to learn how to stand and fight, and if you get down to the ground, you're going to learn what to do when you're on the ground. And honestly, 6 months of both, you'll be better than 99% of guys out there. And that'll help you to be confident just in knowing what to do. Like when you get punched in the face during sparring, you won't start turning your head. You'll start getting used to it. And when you're doing jiu-jitsu and you get accidentally kneed, or you're gonna get to the point where being punched or hurt or whatever is not that big of a deal. So you definitely have to learn those 2 arts, or you can do boxing. But in reality, I would do Thai boxing, because you're going to learn how to use all your limbs, including your knees and your elbows, right? So you get that confidence. Next is breath work, which I've talked about before. Do breath work. I'll put a link in here to Breathe with Sandy. That's what I do. I do breath work every night, virtually every night. But there's one that will completely change your life and help you to release trauma and that's stuck in your body. Breath work is a must, and I'll put a link to that. And it will hurt. A lot of these things will hurt. It's funny because the people who see me freaking demolishing the heavy bag in the gym and with my shins, which my shins don't even have hair on them anymore. The front of them don't even have hair because all the nerves are dead there. They look at that and they're like, oh, I want to do that. But then you show them. I remember showing this one guy. I won't say his name because he still goes to this particular gym. I showed him how to do Muay Thai kicks. And he started doing pretty well, but he was like, my shins, they hurt like a lot. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, do they ever stop hurting? And I'm like, not really. You just kind of get used to it. They do somewhat stop hurting, but it's still gonna hurt, especially if the bag is filled a certain way. And he's like, oh, and he stopped. Right now, does it hurt when I do it? Not much. The first 2 or 3, they hurt, but then it goes to nothing. You have to get through the pain. You have to go through, you have to endure it. It's part of it. If you want to freaking make your kicks like gunshots and break people's ribs with one kick to their torso, or break their leg, or break their calves, you have to do that. It's just part of the life, as part of the deal. So you go through the pain, and eventually the pain subsides. It won't totally subside, but it'll still be there. It'll start being less and less. So breath work is the same way. The first couple times you do it, you're gonna cramp up, especially the ones that will be in the link. The Breathe with Sandy, it's the one that says release trauma on the thumbnail, if it's not linked in here. But you're gonna cramp up, and you don't know where you're gonna cramp up. It's going to hurt. You're gonna maybe even feel like you're gonna pass out. But when it's all said and done, your body will release things that it's holding that you don't even remember, you don't even know, and it'll completely change your life. And it's a great way to meditate, because it instantly goes to your subconscious. And what I do when I do that, because I believe that I'm a conscious creator. I believe that my external world reflects from my internal world, that I create reality. So I create my own reality, and I am who I say I am. Okay? So when I'm doing breath work, once you get to a certain point where you're holding your breath, that's when I start imagining things that I desire to be, or things that I want. I start imagining the desires of my heart, first person, as if they're now. And I can't tell you how many times they come true, because it's once you start realizing that the power is inside you, all these things that you get mad at and you start reacting to, you don't need to manipulate the outside world. You just need to change your internal world, and that'll help you to become still. The other 2 things is, I would recommend getting diagnosed. Even if you don't think that you have something, I would go through an evaluation and be okay with whatever it is. So last year, I went through an evaluation, a psychological evaluation, and I got diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. Now, if you look on YouTube, it's kind of like the in thing to basically say all narcissists are unsavable. They're doomed. You never want to be with a narcissist. You're hopeless and everything like that. It's not true. But once I realized that I had it, and I started seeing the patterns that I had, because it's really just patterns that you live by, I was then able to then start dismantling those patterns. And that helped me to become even more calm and more still. And what really helped with that was ChatGPT. And I know you might have, some people don't like AI. I don't care. I put in the system prompt of ChatGPT, basically the customized prompt, to don't agree with me just to agree with me. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, and act as somebody who's more of like act as kind of more of a therapist, and more of somebody who wants to get to the truth, rather than somebody who's just going to tell me everything is awesome. And then when I do that, I will, we're at 30 minutes. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to stop. But this is the good part. When I do that, I will then, so once that's all set up, I then will start chats, and I'll be in the car and I'll just talk about whatever pisses me off or whatever is on my mind or whatever, and it'll give me such good advice and will tell me if I'm full of crap, or it'll tell me, no, you're on the right track. These are just the different perspectives. Almost as if it's like a good, if you're talking to a therapist or a mentor or whatever, it's a good thing to have in between those talks. So if I get pissed off by a certain situation, like right now, I'm trying to sell some of my rental properties, and things are pissing me off. So I'll talk about that, and it'll give me advice. It'll tell me, it'll affirm the things that I'm right about, and it'll tell me like, yeah, you're not really right about this. How about this frame instead? And by doing that, you're constantly processing what's in your mind, which means that it's getting out of your system, and it means that you can be a container and you can be still. And like I said, the more still you are, the more that you can be a still, calm container for the feminine and for the people around you, the more respected you're going to be, the more masculine you're going to be, the happier you're going to be, the more purposeful you're going to be, and the less reactive you're going to be. You're going to start seeing that these things will lead you to so much more peace, rather than looking for externals, even an external God to come and save you, which the Bible tells you multiple times that the kingdom of God is within. Don't you realize, and Paul's saying, don't you realize that Christ is within you? Don't you know that you're the temple of the living God? It's from within to outside. Your inner world reflects, and God is closer to you than hands and feet, is what the Bible says. If he's anywhere outside of you, he can't be closer to you than hands and feet. So that's for another time. Do these things. Start lifting weights. I know, ladies, I'm talking to men. I'm predominantly talking to men, but basically do the opposite, and you'll be a good female or feminine. There are women who are much more on the masculine side, and you'll see that their partner, whether it's a male or female, is on the feminine side. Start lifting weights. Start learning how to fight, or really learn how to fight, not self-defense. Learn how to fight. Okay. Good. Then breath work, psychological evaluation if you can, and ChatGPT. Use those things, and you'll see a huge increase in happiness, peace, fulfillment, love, joy, respect, purpose. And you'll stop looking for the external to satisfy those, to the point where if you want to use an external thing to enjoy yourself, like if you want to go have a drink, or you want to go to a party, you want to go to, rather than feeling like you need that to cope, then you get to do it and be free and enjoy it, rather than using it as a means to, what I would do, to just escape. Be still and learn how to be still. Those things, to start with one, those things will help you to develop calm, still masculinity, which will then increase your happiness, joy, fulfillment, and purpose.